you, Representative Gillette, for being here. This is our wonderful Kingman representative, LD30, who is not coming back for another term.
But I will be there in January, and I will finish out strong.
Okay, so one initial question. I've talked to tons of people, and they are like, Representative Gillette has this freedom. So we're noticing that in this off season, you've been really outspoken. Does the freedom that you feel because you're not running again, do you think it is somewhat maybe burning the house down as you're going out the door?
No, I don't think. I heard that same thought too, and I don't think I've changed anything. It's just I don't think people paid much attention before, and with the news cycle the way it is, where we've had political assassinations, killings of innocent people. I think people are just more attuned now, and they're actually tuning in and listening because I've really changed nothing. You and I have spoken before, and I mean, I don't think my stance is any different than it has been. And some of my own colleagues are like, "Wow, this is getting some traction," and I'm surprised that it is because my account just hit 5,000 followers, and we're throttled and shadow banned. And I think once you pass that 5,000 mark, you get a little bit more movement on it. And I don't know if that was it or not, but typically these things weren't picked up on. And it's, oh, yeah, that was a great speech. All 7 people heard it, but now it's reaching 14 people. So
let's talk about first what I reported on yesterday. So I got these memos flying across last night, and even at, I usually don't do Sunday night drops, but I was like, I got to report on this now because the Democrats in the House, one of the Democrats, she sent a unity message, but it's not let's have unity, period. It's let's have unity, da 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 da. And you sent a barn burner of a message back. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I didn't consider it a barn burner. Everything I said in that message is factual. So the left now, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, continue to say they want unity, they want peace. Although, as I made in my post, we didn't burn any cities down. We went to church. After the assassination, the call was for prayer, and we went to church. My church yesterday was packed. They had to add seats. There was over 600 people in attendance. And you know where I live. I'm in a small town. That's what we did. The left continues with the rhetoric, and I see it posted. I'm not going to stand idly by and have his name and his work harangued by a bunch of leftists that have frankly called for division for the last 10 years. This is not just something that happened overnight. Ever since Trump's first campaign, we have been called deplorables, radicals, racists, misogynists, Nazis, authoritarians. One House member, and I'll be nice and not use names, but we kept a running log of how many times she said things that we did, as in bills and statements on the House floor, were dangerous. So she said dangerous over 53 times on the House floor, depicting something as simple as water bills, election bills, you name it. Our idea is dangerous. So the left has framed this narrative of we are a direct threat to democracy. And then we see a member from the party send a message to everyone. That went out to all House members. And I saw no one responded. So I took a moment to think about it. And I responded basically with just what you said. We have tried. And in my statement, I said, we gave you an olive branch and you broke it. You doubled down on everything for the last 10 years. Now think about this shooter and some of the previous shooters that are 20 years old, in their mid-20s. They have heard this rhetoric from the left that those of us on the right are a threat to democracy. We're Hitler. We're Nazis. We're out to get them. We're taking rights from people. Women don't have rights anymore. LGBTQ community doesn't have rights. Everybody is a Nazi. And they've listened to that for half of their life. So that's not us saying that. That's the other side. And in the letter I wrote, I said, as the Japs did on the bombing of Pearl Harbor and that radical Islam did during 9/11, those two items in history, those two attacks in history, woke the sleeping giant. And the sleeping giant is the American people. They're paying attention again. We have a very short span of attention. We we see the big events, everybody unifies on the big events, and then it goes away. We said, don't forget 9/11. Now we have a radical Islamic communist running for mayor in New York, and he is supported by the governor. We have members of the House of Representatives that are endorsed by the Working Family Party, and that is a communist party. And they're not shy about it. If a communist endorsed me, I would renounce the endorsement immediately. And that's where we're at. So I took that letter as offensive. And the sender of that letter, I don't think she was trying to be offensive, but her very tone deaf words telling us we need to lower the temperature after 10 years of calling us a Nazi and a racist and a criminal, felons. We're done. We're tired of listening to this. So I don't think my stance has changed in any way, shape, or form. You ask people that know me all my life, they'll tell you I'm kind of an ass, and that's fine. That's fine. If you want to think that, it's fine. I don't care.
Now, the first time I met you, maybe about a year ago or so, I don't know if you remember the conversation, but I'm very direct. So journalism is a second career. So I don't always have all of this figured out, right? So I asked you, because I know you are not Freedom Caucus. You are not in the Freedom Caucus. I asked you, are you a traditional, conservative, or are you, more right? And you gave an answer, but now I definitely know. I mean, you are a traditional, down the road, not establishment, conservative. And I think that is what's astounding for a lot of people is the forcefulness of how you're speaking. You're even tired. Like they have lost just like the traditional Republican. Forget the Freedom Caucus and their responses that are of course those are going to be harsh. They've lost the more Republicans that are willing to cooperate on a regular basis. And so I think this is definitely a turning point.
It is, and I'm glad you use that word turning point because I have been called everything from a rhino to a right-wing nut job. So that's a pretty big spectrum there, but I believe that's the moniker you get when you're moderate on issues and you're moderate on business issues and you hold a line of, is this good for the majority of the people? And if it is, I vote yes. If it's constitutional, I vote yes. And if it's not, I vote no. And it seems lately that the narrative and the focus is shifted away from societal norms. And we had this battle on the DDD. We had the battle. One of the bigger battles was driver's license for illegals. If you didn't support that, you were racist against illegals. I'm like, no, I'm thinking of the bigger picture. If you give them a driver's license, and that term there, give them. So let me rephrase that so I don't get beat up while I'm categorizing them as a them. If you give people that are non-citizens a driver's license, they will be registered to vote. Now, I asked that question in committee while we were hearing this bill, and I asked it of an ADOT representative, a legislative liaison from ADOT and MVD, and he says, I don't know. Let me get back to you. And I got an honest answer back. Yes, if they have a driver's license and they have an address, they will be registered to vote. So now we have an unqualified registrant, someone who is not a U.S. citizen that we know with an illegal license will be registered to vote. So of course I'm going to vote. Now it has nothing to do with race. It's about keeping the voting roll clean. But again, I'm called a racist and I hate brown people and I hate all this. They don't know what my personal intent is, but I do my homework. As you know, I do my homework. I dig into everything. And that's what shaped that vote. And to have someone on the floor call me a racist, I really didn't have a response. It just looks over. I'm like, you were in the committee. You heard what he said. Yes, they'll be registered to vote. That is an unqualified registrant. How does that make me a racist? So that was a narrative that they pushed that we're racist because we don't want brown people to drive, period. And they always make it about the brown people. We have people here from China, Russia, South Africa. We have
Mhm.
people from all over the globe. I didn't categorize one type of illegal alien. I categorized them all. Whomever is here illegal shall not get a driver's license. But that makes me racist. So yeah,
That's a good point about it's always, especially here in Arizona, it's always, the brown people. It's always our community, right? Meaning, their community. That's how they always phrase it.
they do. They frame it that way, and they hate that you talk to us. Because well, she's black. She should be on our side. Well, she's got a brain and can think, and she tells it like it is down the middle of the road. Sometimes when you report something, I'm like, oh, that kind of hurt us a little bit. But I'm like, is it factual? Well, yeah, it's factual. We own that one. So that's why we continue this dialogue, because you're a factual reporter. You report it like you see it, and I know you do your homework. Um, and
Thank you, sir.
I have other things out there I haven't released yet, because we haven't confirmed it 100%. I don't want to release something that is not 100% confirmed. So everything that I put out, I have run to ground, and I've asked for help from contemporaries to run this to ground and agencies. So if we put it out, it's factual, and that's where this narrative starts to shift. Is the Democrats see something that they don't like, they start tearing it down, even though it's factual. It all comes back to racism, anti-LGBTQ, all the things. It's the same narrative, regardless of problem. And I think that's what the people are seeing, because we heard all the hate and bashing towards Charlie Kirk, and my wife, my friends, myself. Um, we listened to him, and I can't ever remember a time that he bashed a particular group. Now, if he had debate and didn't agree with a particular group, and his speaking on the LGBTQ community was what I was really watching, and they continue to say we're taking their rights away. I'm like, but they have the same rights as you, me, anybody else. We're just not giving them extra rights to have women in men's sports or men in girls' locker room. That's a right that should not be afforded to anybody of any sexual preference. Um,
And that was really across the board. I mean, even with, the issue that people are just straight up lying about, that he's a racist and, his comments on black people, which they're just wholly making up or just taking, snippets. Like he may have criticized Ketanji Brown, Jackson. He didn't criticize all black women, which is how they're literally just making it seem like. But he wanted everyone to have the same rights across the board. And
Agree.
for that, they're calling him a racist. And I've been against DEI. It's time for affirmative action to end. It hasn't helped Black communities, obviously, and it's time. I mean, how long were we going to have it? But I want to talk about the Islam controversy, the Muslim controversy that you ran into, that the Arizona House, they tried to have you brought up on ethics charges. You're smiling. I will, for people watching this, I will make sure that I link the letter, the smackdown that the chair gave the House Democrats when they tried to bring you up on ethics. But before we talk about that, list your qualifications, your intelligence, the reason why you are qualified, especially qualified to speak to this issue.
well, I spent my entire adult life as a member of the U.S. Army. I had several different roles, but I retired in 2019 as a command sergeant major. And since 2003, going to Iraq with 3rd Infantry Division, OIF 1, and being the driving force in that country, first ones there to execute the war. Now, you can talk about the merits of us being there, and was it really needed? I mean, that's debatable for generations to come. But the fact that I was there, and this is what I tried to explain to the reporter, that not only did I serve in the military, but I served with a counterintelligence agency that as a contractor that did work in Oman, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Dubai, Bahrain, Qatar, North Africa. I have had many years of direct experience in Islamic nations that are ruled by Islamic governments, some more moderate than others, but all with the same idea that their religion is their government and Sharia law is the law of the land. And if you don't conform to this, well, then you're an infidel. Now, I told the reporter from the Mirror, this hack reporter that I won't speak to again, um, he pressed and pressed, and I told him a story that he did not put out there. And this story can be confirmed by many ways, especially looking in the National Archives. But during OIF-1 in Iraq, we had a hot mission to rescue, I think she was 17, 19 years old, something like that, woman from Saddam Fedayeen soldiers that had captured her and raped her and beat her. And we got a tip on where she was at. So we put two teams together. We executed a raid, a hostage rescue operation, and we rescued this woman. And she was in bad shape. Medics took her immediately, reviving her and at least stabilizing her so we could get her to higher medical care. And at the time, I had an interpreter, Hussein, very common name for Iraqis.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a man that was educated in England, couple degrees. He was a former MiG pilot for the Iraqi Air Force, and he aged out. But this is a man that showed up business casual every day to war. So when we would pick him up at undisclosed locations during the day or meet him somewhere, he would show up with dress shoes, dress pants, a belt, a shirt, and occasionally wear a jacket. Now, we're throwing him in a Humvee and we're executing violent, aggressive action every day, and he comes business casual. He wouldn't wear a vest. He wouldn't wear a helmet. He said, if he dies, it's Allah's will. And we had hours and hours of discussion, in our downtime and pre-op, post-op missions. And he would frequently talk about his wife and his children and how his love for his wife, his children, his country mattered more than his very life. So after we rescue this girl, I tell him, I said, okay, Hussein, talk to her, find out where her family is. Let's let her family know and get her back. And he tells me, no, Mr. John, we cannot do that. I'm like, why? What's the deal? He goes, well, they will kill her. She's no longer pure. She cannot go to Allah because she's not pure. I'm like, what does that mean? He says, well, they will kill her. I'm like, what? I said, this culture is so backwards. Somebody does that to a loved one of mine, I'm killing them. I'm not killing my loved one. And he's like, well, you don't understand our culture. I said, so you're telling me if your wife or one of your little daughters, which I have seen, if this happened to them, he goes, and he puts his hand over his heart, this would be my duty, my responsibility as a good Muslim to kill them so they could be purified and see Allah. I'm like, the resolve is what got me. I mean, like a bullet through the brain that I had no understanding of Islam until that very point. And this is something that General Petraeus tried to beat into the heads of everyone there is we can't win the war if we don't understand the culture. So taking a deep dive into the culture, reading the Quran, reading from some of the imams, really soured me on the entire structure of Islam and how such a mild-mannered, well-educated man says it's his duty and responsibility to kill his wife or children if they were molested and they were felt to be impure, so they couldn't meet Allah. And then the guy's arguing with me. The reporter's arguing with me about it. He asked for my personal opinion. My personal opinion is based on that experience in Afghanistan, seeing friends killed, watching a beheading when you can do nothing about it, having Iraqi leaders in the scope of my rifle and told not to do anything, watching the brutal killing of children. And there was an example, and I hesitate to talk about it, but we witnessed a man kill his wife, the wife's sister, and she couldn't have been maybe 2 or 3, wearing a little pretty red dress, shot all 3 of them in the head, just took this girl's head off. This child that probably has no understanding of what's going on, whacked them all. Their crime, they spoke to the infidel. They're no longer pure. And then we see these
Wow.
people immigrate here and demand that we have the call to prayer 5 times a day on public speaker, that we don't sell products that they disagree with, pork products, that we don't sell alcohol, or they're going to protest. They came here for a better life. All well and good. But don't bring your culture here if your culture demands that we change our ways for you. And that's the point I'm trying to make to this guy. And he's continuing to arguing and sticking up for him. So I'm not taking that from some bullshit Mirror reporter. I'm going to let him know what I know. And if he doesn't like it, don't ask my direct opinion. If the Democrats don't like it, then don't ask me. I'm not going to go out of my way to push this narrative or push this information. But if I am asked, I'm going to tell you my true feelings. So if you don't like it, don't ask. And he was upset about that. So he puts the piece out there. And as you said, the Democrats filed their ethics report. And I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't break any House rules. And I tried to push it as well because I have evidence that I wanted to bring into a committee hearing and just blow the Democrats away.
Mm.
Well, we couldn't even stretch it into a complaint because it's not a complaint. I have First Amendment right. I'm entitled to my opinion. And as I said to the reporter, and as I said in my statement that you're going to put a link to, I know there are Muslims of their faith that practice every day without any violence, without a wish for any violence. And I have friends that are Muslim, but and I use the phrase Muslim light, but I don't know even how to describe it. They believe in Allah, they believe in Islam, but they've adapted our culture and they understand Sharia law is not a thing that will happen here. We don't settle friendly. And that's a term used in the Middle East where if you have a beef with another family, you go to court and a trier of fact, a judge will decide whether you can kill that other person or if that other person must remit to you the amount of money that you feel that you've been outed. And that is a crazy system. And he denies that's happening, even though we see example of them pushing Sharia law. And it's not going to happen. It's contrary to the Constitution, meaning it's repugnant. And if it's repugnant to the Constitution, as it says, it shall not stand. And the Democrats have embraced this. And they embraced this on the eve of 9/11 and made their complaint on 9/11 as we were watching the news. And I'm recalling the war events in my brain. I'm watching the news and I'm watching the towers fall. The Democrats are standing with radical Islam.
That is one reason why I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to sit down and talk, because the second I saw that article, I knew there was more to the story. And it seems like there was some unfair reporting that went on, that there was much more in depth, and that he finally did just kind of, push your buttons and you just let him know, as you say, your opinion, on the matter.
I tried to be respectful at first, but that only goes so far. Everybody is tired of this nonsense from the mainstream and the legacy media. You did that prior story of why a lot of us have taken to social media and podcasting and Substacks. As you know me, I am not good at any of this. I barely can get the audio to work. I am not very photogenic. I have trouble with texting. I can't spell anything on this keyboard because it's the only keyboard that works with this computer, and I hate it. But I suffer through it because there's got to be a way to get true factual information to the people. Now, there's a little more to the story that really hasn't been told yet. I've been watching the Senate Select Committee, the Senate Intelligence Select Committee, and there was a memorandum put out, and I'll send you a copy so you have it for the link. A memorandum was put out on 9 September requesting that CARE not be allowed to push their 9/11 agenda in schools. And if you haven't seen that, CARE believes that we are not teaching the correct background on 9/11, and they want to influence that in public education. That alone started the deep dig. And there is a House bill going on right now. And let me see, I'll get you a number on the House bill.
Okay.
Congressional bill, and it lays out everything of what CARE has done since, I think, 2003, no, 99, 2003, something like that. But the bill is to designate CARE a foreign internal or a foreign terrorist organization as a foreign internal threat to the United States of America. And I'm pulling it up here now. It's 119th Congress, first session, HR 4097. And the bill lays out the findings from the 2007 Holy Land Foundation terrorism financing trial all the way through the comments after the attack on Israel. So there is a movement in Congress. They see this. It's been investigated. The Senate Committee on Intelligence, they have a lot more information on this than we do, and they feel it prudent to issue a statement and feel it prudent to run a piece of legislation designating CARE as a foreign terrorist outfit. And then we see Governor Hobbs and many of the Democrats standing with CARE. Now, the whole text thing started off a law enforcement advisory board. I think they are the last person on earth that needs to be advising American law enforcement. They want to talk about cultural issues, and we have ASU students trying to sue the police for removing their headwear. If I get arrested, they're taking my belt, they're taking my shoes, they're taking my watch. I'll be forced to comply like any American would. And they don't get a special category because they claim some nonsense. Now, it doesn't take a lot to look up the 3 or 4 large imams that are practicing within the United States, and they will flat out tell you that Sharia law allows them to lie, deceive, and partner with anybody they can to push their agenda. And their agenda is Sharia law in the United States. And the Democrats completely denounce it and stand with them.
I recently did another podcast, and it was with someone with the same military intelligence background. And the lens through which you guys see issues of the Middle East are all the same. And it comes from a lens that I can't read what you've experienced in a book, right? I've never been to the Middle East. I've never been in the military. So I think in this sense, we kind of have to defer to those that have seen it up close. And actually, my podcast host on a different podcast, he has the same experience as you, having, been over there and been in intelligence. And verbatim, you guys literally almost speak the same language. So that was a nice segue into Substack, which is kind of, the last area that I want to talk about. So when you announced your Substack, immediately, those, on the right were excited. They were happy. Yes, let's do away with, the media altogether, right? Let's just get it straight from the source. There are others, I would say, that are more of those moderates in the middle, maybe even independents that I heard from, that it's kind of weird, right? Or how can they be? You can either be a legislator or you can be, in the media, but you can't do both, right? You can't be the media, report on it, and be a legislator. I think it's great. I love it. I mean, it's actually easier for me. Hey, lay it all out there because, and for me, I don't feel like it's, you're taking away job security because, like you said, you have a very, especially you, sir, you have a very military precise way of laying it out. And people are still going to need the common person to kind of decode it. And so that's where I come in. Like, okay, this is, for I've
Well,
learned how
let me
to.
stop you right there because you're just giving me the same speech my wife gave me before we got off the phone there. She goes, okay, you need to knock it off because nobody understands what you're saying. Draw a picture, lay it out, give it to the kids. When they understand it, then you're good. And I'm like, but they do understand it. And I'm finding out from you media folks, no, the average public looks at this and they have no idea what they're looking at. And I dropped some bombs on that Substack. And the reason for that is I'm not trying to be the media, but as you know, and some of your cohorts know that are not in the legacy media space, uh, we do a lot of work and we put this out to the media. I know Mr. Wilder, our house media guy, he gets inundated daily with tons of stuff and he pushes it out to the mainstream media. How much is the mainstream media put out to the people? Absolutely zero. They're not putting
Mhm.
that. How would you know that we filed criminal referrals on the Hobbs administration, on Fontes? I mean, you wouldn't because the media is not reporting it. So I'm like, well, let me ask DOJ, is it cool to put this? Yeah, yeah, we're not going to confirm or deny anything. You do what you got to do. So this, what I put out is anything that I've sent forward, my own work, my own analysis, anything that I've verified. I've got one coming out that I have a disclaimer on it. I cannot verify 100% the document, um, but I have the document. And will it make some people on both sides uncomfortable? Probably,
Mm.
because I'm new to politics. I've only been in this 4 or 5 years. Um, and if people knew about this, going all the way back to the Obama administration on either side and didn't say something, well, shame on them. Um, I struggled with this and I wasn't going to put it out because, like I said, I haven't confirmed everything and I don't think I ever will. I've sent FOIAs and I've gotten blank pages back. I've gotten uh, entire pages of redacted script that you can't tell what it says. So I got a rough document. It's not in very good shape. Most of it unredacted, and it's going to go out this week, and the people can make their own conclusion because that's ultimately who needs to decide. It's not us. It's not the media. It's the people. And if the people are armed with information, I do believe they'll make the right decision.
Well, I love it because, like I said, combined with the military intelligence, and then you also just being, super brilliant, people
Thanks.
will need some decoding. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here for it. Just lay out
Well,
the documents and.
you decode it, but I'm writing as I'd been trained, and I don't get any extra for this. I do have paid subscription on there, and I think I have 5 paid subscribers. I have tons of unpaid. It matters not as long as you get the information. And it comes up only paid people can see beyond this. I click that button right off. I want the information to go out there. If somebody wants to give me the $5 for the subscription, okay, I'll take your $5. I'll put it to good use. But I don't know that it goes lower than that because it wouldn't take the $1.99. It wouldn't take the 99 cents, but it took the 4.99. So okay, it's $5. So less
Well,
than a cup of coffee. Uh, but I think we have stripped all the paywalls off everything. And if there is a paywall, if someone gets it, please text me and I will try to figure out how to remove it and I will send it directly to your text because I want people to see this information. This is stuff that um, I won't name drop on here, but we have many people in the house, at least on our side. I don't know what the other side does, but we have people that work tirelessly to dig this information up and try to do the right thing. And you know what we get paid, 24 grand a year. So most of us are doing this for free. Most of us lose money by being a member of the House. So I promised the folks when I ran here that I would run, and if I won, I would do 4 years. So at the end of this second session will be the end of my 4 years. And I struggled, I struggled a lot with it, but um, our pastor said something in a church one time, and it was a sermon, and it had nothing to do with politics. But he said, you can't legislate or make laws on morality. You can make something unlawful, but the immoral will still do it.
Mm.
And that just, it kind of was another one of those moments where, yeah, we can make everything under the sun illegal, but criminals are still going to do it. The Chinese are still going to attack. We are still at the threat from communism, radical Islam, internal threats of all this crazy stuff. So I hope to be moving into, I will be moving into a different space that maybe is on a quieter but a bigger picture where I can have some more influence.
Well, I've definitely seen a trend because there are several legislators that are now, even after you, that are now popping up with Substacks, which is great. And then even, several with podcasts. So I think it's great. I think, bypass the media, talk directly to the people. We'll still be here to, guide them, in the right direction if they're lost in the, Gillette speak. We'll decode it, and we definitely look forward to you keeping up that Substack, keeping up the podcasting in whatever's next. And then this last year, I mean, this come January, we're ready. I have a feeling that Representative Gillette is going to be in rare form, so I might have to be down at the legislature a little more often and watch the fireworks.
I will tell you, I'll be polite and professional. I'll treat everyone with dignity, but I will not stand by and listen to these lies and have any person from the left or right uh, badmouth the American way of life. I'm tired of it. We're a constitutional republic, and we stand on footing that was given to us by our founders. And some of these folks want to shake that very foundation, and I hope the people see it. And if we keep putting information out there, um, you know, it is what it is. The people either believe it or they don't, and that's their judgment. I can't influence their judgment. All I can do is provide documents, and that's kind of, what we did militarily. Okay, here's the bad guy. Here's his location. Okay, it doesn't look good, or yeah, looks great. Go get him.
And
So,
sir, for those that are listening and maybe not watching the podcast and don't see the links, give me the name of your Substack so that people can run there.
I don't know. I think it's Black Canyon Strategies, John Substack.
Yes, Black Canyon Strategies.
Yep, that I have. I've got it all under that title, and nothing nefarious by the name. We have a little black canyon close to our property out in the middle of nowhere, and that's what the kids call it. Those are our rocks, Daddy. Yes, they're our rocks. You see that garbage? Let's go pick it up. So that was the name. The kids made the name, but we'll continue to feed information to you guys that are on the information side of it. Those media folks that are on the narrative side of it and refuse to put out the stuff. For 4 years, I've been sending stuff to the media, and I think I've gotten 2 articles on bills
Well,
in 4 years. I send something to you, and boom, it's out overnight. I send something to, some of the other folks in the free information space, it's out overnight. The cyber bill was huge. We talked about that, and now I'm working on the piece, like I'm sure you are, with ASU being involved with the Chinese Seven Sons. I don't know if you've seen that information or not, but my cyber bill would be a direct threat to that, even though the Wolf Amendment and the Makarov law makes what they're doing probably illegal. That's something we're digging into. So, are we going to get a lot of positive traction? And there's a couple of the senators on that Senate committee that I am quite sure just literally hate my ass. But you know what? They voted for my bill because it was a nonpartisan way forward with our IT crisis that we have. And, I hate to be the one to say I told you so again, but I warned in those committees that we were ripe for a cyber attack, especially in the election space. And what happens? We're attacked by the RGC. And we had a bill to fix that. And it passed our committee, Senate committee, unanimous support, even by those people that probably despise me. It was a nonpartisan IT bill. And I still, all summer, I'm thinking, What was the problem with that? We acquiesced to Homeland, to DEMA, some of the governor's requests, and it does tighten the controls of our IT system, and it puts a post-quantum encryption in that can't be manipulated. So the only logical conclusion is they still want to manipulate the system. Why else would
One
they
thing I definitely want to do within this next month or so, definitely before Christmas, is preview. What is everybody working on going into January? So I'm going to be definitely contacting you, your top 3 or 4 bills, just kind of, laying them out. It'll probably be, some of them will probably be ones that didn't pass last time, but let's definitely talk soon about that so that I can get that piece in the works.
Absolutely. Anytime. You got my number.
All right. Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Thanks for having me on.